Hi, Michael. This is Sarah Ann. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Sarah Ann?
Good.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine.
Excellent. How are you doing?
Pretty good tonight. Pretty good.
Good.
I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and I would expect we're going to start seeing members of the committee and our chair, Sam Bruder, show up any moment now.
Great.
All right. Anyone has any questions while we're waiting in the meantime, just let me know.
So you're working in your office or from home?
Tonight I am from home. Usually I am in the office.
How's everyone doing?
We're doing well. How about you?
Good. First snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening.
So I went out early to, a week or two ago to start doing my leaves, and my leaf blower quit working. So I was determined to repair it myself, and it took me a while to get the parts and figure out how to do it, watching YouTube videos. And I finally got it running yesterday. So I did the whole yard. It took
Isn't
about
YouTube
11
great?
hours because I knew it was going to snow. It was
YouTube
crazy.
solves so many problems.
I am so sore today. I was so happy when I finished, and then this morning when I saw the snow, I was really happy. So this is the Committee of Committees.
I am not on the committee of committees, but I've been asked to join. So here I am.
Okay, great. Looks like we've got a number of people here and we've got a quorum. So I'd like to call this Committee on Committees meeting of December 9th at 6 p.m. to order. And for the roll call, I identify myself, Sam Bruder. I recognize Councillor Terry Berthelot and Councillor Brian. Are you on the committee?
I have not officially, I'm not officially on the committee, but I accepted the invite, so I'm here tonight.
Okay.
I probably cannot participate, but I certainly, I can certainly sit back and see what you're all doing tonight.
Glad to have you.
Is everybody okay with that?
I am.
Okay.
All right. So, Sarah Ann, was there any member of the public that wanted to have an opportunity to comment?
No, there are not, of which I'm aware. Just a long list of interviewees tonight.
Sounds good. And I think that for the sake of time, we may not vote on all the committees. My goal is to try to get through a couple of votes, but I know that at least for like the Affordable Housing Committee, we have 7 openings and 7 applicants, and I'd like to hold any decisions off until we get at least maybe 3 more applicants for now. And I know that the the Solid Waste Advisory Committee has a number of openings, or I'm sorry, applicants, and not as many openings, but see how time gets us. So with that, I make a motion to approve the minutes from our November 4th, 2021 meeting. Counselor Berthelot, seconds. All in favor, raise your hand, and it's unanimous. The next topic is candidate interviews. Looks like we have Laura Austin as our first candidate. How are you?
Terrific.
Great. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Looks like you're interviewing for the Commission on Aging.
Yes.
And why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in town, and what makes you want to volunteer for the Commission on Aging?
Well, I attended UConn. I graduated in 1978, and my husband and I moved around a little bit in this area where in 1988, we started building a house. So we live on Bassett's Bridge Road, where the house we built, and brought up our kids here. So in the meantime, I finished my career at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft. And so as a retiree, I'm trying to do more charitable work. And I thought it would be great to be involved with a variety of opportunities for me to volunteer. And certainly it's coming into my age group as I turn 65.
Thank you for being here. Have you had any other prior experience in volunteering with the town? I was just looking at.
Right, not with the town. I go to the First Baptist Church of Mansfield, and I do a lot of work with Baptist churches in our state and around the country. And I've been working with Food Share, and so now
great.
I'm getting to see all the nonprofits that I'm delivering food to. So, and I'm very active with WAME, and I've been with Covenant Soup Kitchen for 30 years. Regular
Awesome.
volunteer, yep.
Thank you. And have you had a chance to see the Commission on Aging charge to kind of
Yes.
get an idea of what it does? And is there anything that would prevent you from being able to fulfill the, guidelines or requirements that are in it?
No, it all sounded very good. I was introduced, so I have an idea of what's going on.
Thank you. Councilor Berthelot, do you have any questions?
Sure. Thank you, Laura, for volunteering. It's always good to have members of the community step up. I guess my question for you is, in terms of our aging community, I know you're not on the committee yet, but what do you imagine some of the things that we should be doing better in terms of meeting the needs of our aging community as a town?
Well, I think communication is always a big item, and where a lot of people are used to doing more electronic, the people that are the target audience are not quite so wired in. So maybe more mailings. And I really like that the town of Willimantic, Wyndham, put up the big electronic signboard at the Frog Bridge. And so even when I'm driving by, I'm going to want to read those things. So, gee, if we had something outside our community center, maybe to tell us when Know Your Town Fair is and the libraries, book sale days. So communication is always a good thing. Try to increase it for the right audience.
Does your engineering hat, are there things structurally around town that might be better?
Well, I'm a materials engineer, so I'm still thinking about that.
You don't have to answer. I was just curious.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind. When we decided to live on Bassett's Bridge Road, we understood that it's going to close every year. But some of our newer neighbors, they think that it should always stay open. And we're like, no, it's like living near the airport. When you buy into that property, you know what you're getting. So nothing comes to mind.
All right. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for answering my questions.
Do you have any questions for us?
No?
Okay. Well, this is a public meeting. You're more than welcome to stay on. We just ask that you mute your mic and depending on time, like I said, we're going to try to get through all the interviews before we do any voting type deal. So procedurally, if we make a recommendation tonight for you to join the Commission on Aging, that would go to the town council, and it won't happen at their meeting on Monday, but it would happen more than likely at the meeting following that, which will be in January. So
Right.
then you're more than welcome still to go to the Commission on Aging and be part of the meetings, just so you know what happens before anything becomes official.
Great. But am I also hearing that I can leave?
Yes, you can.
Then I'm going to take advantage of that option and say, thank you all.
Have a good night.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. So the next interviewee that we have on the list is Elena. Is she on? Oh, and there she is. Oh no, wait. Yep, great. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Looks like we have you interviewing for, is it the sustainability?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in town? What makes you want to get involved?
Well, we originally moved here in 2007 when I was going to UConn for graduate school. And then we moved away briefly, well, for a few years, and then moved back. We've been living in our current house for 7 years. So we've been back in Mansfield for 7 years now. And I got my degree at UConn. I got my master's degree in microbiology, and then just sort of stuck around with research positions. And now I'm a research writer for UConn Today, and I write stories for the public about the research happening at UConn. And my beat is largely climate related research. No matter what department the research is from, it seems it's almost always climate related these days. So I'm immersed in climate change research and science, and I kind of can't escape it. It's what I do in my spare time too. So I thought it was sort of a natural sort of fit to get more involved in the community and try to help with the sustainability efforts to make our town more resilient as we progress further into the climate change effects of the century.
Great. Thank you for that. And have you had a chance to look at the charge for the Sustainability Committee?
The charter, I've attended a few meetings, but I haven't read the charter in a while. I read it a ways back when I considered doing this previously, but I haven't read it within the past few years.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Berthelot, do you have any questions?
Sure, thanks. Thanks for being here, Elena. We really appreciate you stepping up. My question is about communication. What could the town be doing to better communicate with people about issues like global warming, or just being gentler to our earth?
I think more presence on social media may be helpful. The previous applicants, I'm not sure if that would be the proper term, her suggestion of like maybe a digital sign would be interesting. I think there's definitely the place for print newsletters still. Yeah, I think social is a place where a lot of people get their information, but it's definitely not the only place. And regular updates on efforts of what the different committees are doing. Like, I don't know if there's like a roundup like newsletter of committee updates, but something like that would be helpful.
And what's some of the misinformation out there And how could we sort of address that and make sure that we're all on the same page?
Oh, addressing misinformation. The most important thing we can all do to address misinformation and to make sure that people are engaged is to talk about it. I think having more events, more question and answer sessions, climate cafe type of things, where people can just talk and share information from experts, from people in the field, from people engaging with communities around the state. I think that is really powerful. And if we could do more events like that, I think it'd be very beneficial to the community.
I love that idea. That's wonderful. Again, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have any questions for us?
Probably if I am chosen to be on the committee, I probably have questions come up along the way. What's the best way to communicate with the different committees?
I think it really just depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to find out information, it might be good just to start with the chair. If you're trying to collaborate, usually the two chairs would talk, or if the chair of your committee designated you to be the in-between person, then you could certainly do that. And if you needed any information about our committees, our town clerk certainly has that, or our website has a lot of information as well. I find it's useful, like for certainly the committees that I can't attend but are interested in, just to go in and read the minutes from the prior meetings to kind of see where the direction of things are going and get a feel for things that way.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. And I do know our town manager comes out with a newsletter that has a lot of happenings that are going on in town. And it's not specific to committees, but certainly the work of the committees gets covered in that when it's, rises to the level of his attention, and his report is very thorough.
Okay. I'll have to find that. Is there a link to a subscription list on the town website? Okay, I'll
Yes.
look for that.
The Civic Plus, I think it is.
Great.
Thank you for your time. And like I said, with the prior applicant, you're more than welcome to stay on or sign off.
Great, thank you. I've got kids to get into bed, so I will be signing off.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, our next applicant on the list is Joshua Walters. Josh, it looks like you're applying for both the Solid Waste Management and Sustainability Committee.
Yes, and I actually am just getting home, so I'm going to be off camera for a moment. I apologize. But yes, I'd be interested in either of those.
If it's easier, I can go to the next one and then come back to you.
Actually, if you don't mind, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So, just want to see who's on the list next and who's signed in. Let's see. Just looking at the participants.
Sam, it looks like we have Nicole here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nicole, welcome. You're still muted. You might be able to hit the little button on your headset to unmute it.
Oh, is this good now? Good?
Yep, I can
I'm
hear
sorry,
you.
I'm like not very good at Zoom.
No, you're doing fine. I can hear you. We can see you.
Okay,
And we appreciate you being here. This is, signing on to Zoom is not a requirement to be able to volunteer for the town.
I should be better at it. I've done it a bunch of times. whatever.
No, it's okay. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in town? It looks like you're looking to also apply for the Solid Waste Management Committee. And what interests you in?
Okay. And I have a lifelong interest in garbage. Just very interested in how to reduce waste. And I just, it sounds weird, but it has been a lifelong interest.
Great.
That's why I'm interested in this. And I read the newsletter that Jenny sends out every quarter. And for the last several quarters, she has been soliciting people to join. And, at first I was like, seems like kind of a pain. But then when it was continuing to come up, I felt like, good people of conscience have to step up and do their part. So that's why I'm here.
Do you volunteer anywhere else in town or with any others organizations?
I have never volunteered with the town. I am a nonprofit consultant. I work from home, so I volunteer pretty actively with various nonprofits. And my mother is a member of Mansfield Congregational, the one on Browns Road, and so I help her with volunteer stuff for the church. I'm not a member.
Still helping.
Yeah.
And have you had a chance to look at the solid waste charge?
I did.
And is there anything in it that would prevent you from being able to perform the duties or tasks that are assigned in it?
The only thing I have a little question about is the 6-year commitment, but I'm going to take it 1 year at a time and we'll see how it goes.
That's all we ask for. Okay. Councillor Berthelot, do you have any questions?
Sure. I share your obsession with garbage. Any ideas of how we as a town might produce less?
I mean, yes. First of all, I think we as a town do pretty well. As I understand, we're one of the best in the state and maybe only second to Middletown, but sometimes we do better. And I think that's fantastic. I struggle with this. It's really consumption, and people have very big connection to comfort things and the bags in the store, and I think it's great. It's about education, and I'm not sure how to go about that because they have such a, they don't want to stop taking straws and plastic forks, and I think it's education, but I'm not sure how to go about that.
All right.
I've had trouble with my own family members, so.
Yeah. And even ourselves sometimes, as you say, comfort.
Yeah. Everyone wants a straw.
Well, we sure do appreciate your ideas and your concern for our earth, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I don't.
Okay.
I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much.
Thanks
you
for joining. Okay. Josh, are you ready?
Yes.
Great. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in town? And it looks like, what was it? Hold on. I'm trying to get back to your.
No problem.
Here. You're applying for both the Solid Waste Management and the Sustainability Committee? Yeah,
I'd be interested in both of those. Both are areas of interest, both personally and professionally. I think probably compared to most of the other folks who've talked tonight, I'm a very recent newcomer. My wife last year actually accepted a position at UConn. So we are relatively new to the area. Moving in the middle of a pandemic is a very interesting experience. But I've worked in the energy public sector for about 10 years now, and have a educational background in kind of energy and environment and the kind of areas where those intersect. So that's kind of the nexus for my my interest in both of those positions. And you know, it's been something where we've kind of moved around over the years and haven't really been able to settle down somewhere. And so this might be anticipating one of your questions a little bit, but one of the reasons I'm interested in doing this is I've kind of always told myself once we did settle down somewhere that I wanted to get involved in the local you know, government and participate in that way.
Great. I appreciate that. It looks like, is it an LLM in environmental?
Yep.
What, do you mind me asking what your topic was or your focus?
So for that one, it's basically energy and environmental law, the combination of the two. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, kind of in between, the intersection of those two.
Thanks. And have you had a chance to look at the charge for both committees?
Yep.
And is there anything in there that you don't think you'd be able to fully adhere to, or any of the requirements that you wouldn't be able to achieve?
The only issue I foresee is related to my day job is I work for Connecticut Deep. I work on the energy side of the agency. There's it's the energy and environmental protection. So there could be circumstances where I have internal knowledge of something or I'm just actually working on a project such that I would have to effectively recuse myself from something. I have spoken with my boss there, and so we kind of talked through the ethical issues that could arise, and we're both comfortable that it could be handled, but that is something that would potentially be an issue. I think it's on a case-by-case basis, would have to potentially recuse myself.
Great. Councilor Berthelot, do you have any questions?
Sure. Thanks, Josh, for being here. And sorry that we're sort of hitting you right as you're coming home.
No problem.
That said, I know you're new to Mansfield, but for small towns in general, when we're thinking about sustainability, what should we be thinking about? What are the big issues?
That's a good question. You know, I think one of the things is just small towns. I was surprised coming to stores. You know, I think it's great. Like walkability for students is great. But it's more of a rural area, so walkability is less of an option. And so I think anytime you can, and we do obviously have the bus system in place, but any sort of things you can do to sort of help with that. If there's an event, it's easier in non-pandemic times. But if there's something, a town event or something where you could have some sort of transportation kind of going around town to help get people there, or just things of that nature, I think could be helpful.
Boy, that's brilliant. I mean, brilliant in just getting the sense of that you could get on a bus, that it's actually something that's you're physically capable of, that could happen. Wow, that's terrific. And also I share your concerns about walkability in general, and less cars would definitely be a good thing. So appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Any questions for us?
I don't think so.
Okay. Same thing. You're more than welcome to stay on if you'd like, or feel free to sign off.
You may
Okay,
not have heard that earlier.
Oh, that's
No, I did. Yeah, I have a little one to go run to as well. So it was great meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now let's just go back.
Sam, it looks like Michael Accorsi would be next on the list.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're
Michael,
welcome.
how are you?
Good. Thank you for inviting me tonight.
Not a problem. Thank you for being willing to volunteer. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? How long have you been in town? And it looks like we have you looking for interest in the Affordable Housing Committee that's just starting.
Correct.
Great.
Great. So background, my wife and I came to Mansfield in 1986. I had accepted a position at UConn as a professor in civil and environmental engineering. I've worked at UConn for 35 years. I just retired last June. 20 of those years, I was pretty much a traditional professor doing teaching and research. My specific background is in structural engineering. 15 years I served in academic administration. So I was department head for 3 years, a center director for 3 years. And then I was associate dean of engineering for 9 years. In terms of my interest, as I said, I retired in June. So I'm looking for opportunities to give back to the community. While I was a professor, I volunteered extensively for UConn. Every student activity, Saturdays, Sundays, evenings, I did. So now I'm looking more for community activities. My wife serves on a Planning and Zoning Commission. She told me about this new activity. I had an opportunity to go through the Affordable Housing Plan, which the ad hoc committee put together. And it's really a great report. It's very inspiring. So I'm applying for this committee. I'm also just starting to join Connecticut Food Share, and we'll join Joshua Trust when they resume in the spring. So those are my current plans.
Those are big plans.
I do not have a specific knowledge in affordable housing, but if I am selected, I'm certainly willing to study up. I found my retirement has given me a lot of time to learn new things, which is really great.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to look at the affordable housing charge that we put together?
I did not see that. Was that in the minutes or the agenda?
It would have been.
Went through the plan.
Okay. And do you have any, I know you said you didn't have background necessarily in affordable housing, but do you have any ideas or priorities that you might try to bring to the committee?
I would say, my experience as an associate dean, basically my task was to execute large projects for the School of Engineering, which typically involved large groups of various stakeholders. So usually a group of faculty, working with federal agencies, state agencies, communities, industry. So I think those skills, and then working through problems, putting together, in a lot of cases, proposals, launching new programs. So I think I did this for 9 years and did, dozens and dozens. So I think that type of background will be useful here. You're trying to start up this new activity. I wasn't really sure, financial resources, where they're going to be coming from to implement activities for, the goal, obviously, to expand Mansfield's affordable housing activities or capabilities. And then, budgets are always or harsh reality. So, is that part of the committee's job, is to raise resources to do this, financial resources? So that wasn't clear to me.
Sure. And Councilor Berthlet, jump in if I missed anything, but we have a number of income sources that we've identified, and one of them being, fees in lieu of for housing development. We've also talked about adding to the mill rate to try to have some of the taxes go into, funding the housing trust fund. I know I'm blanking on another one. Oh, and I remember the federal dollars we've gotten from COVID. We're discussing having some of that go into
Right.
the housing trust fund just to give it a little bit of a jump start.
So your job wouldn't be to fundraise. Your job would be sort of to prioritize and to think about the best ways. There are pluses and minuses to the various options Sam spoke of.
Right. Right.
But this group would be thinking through the costs and the benefits of the different ways of doing this.
Right.
Certainly the federal money is a very sweet thing. That's free money, and that's a great way to use it. But other things in town will have, people, supporters and detractors, and sort of thinking that through is, I think, a real important part of what the group will do. Sam, did you have any more questions?
No, I was just going to say, in the plan, it's pretty clear you've laid out, objectives and strategies, and some of I'm not an expert at these again, but it's clear some of the implementations, like town meetings and public meetings and seeking approval, and that's going to be a critical part of this prioritizing. But it's, very impressive. You see, I think they mentioned it was close to 1,000 people were surveyed putting together the report, which is really impressive. And I think, you want to continue in that. And that's one thing that's really impressive about Mansfield. I feel like it is a very strong community. So those types of things excite me.
Councilor Berthelot, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
I just curious, in terms of sort of your engineering hat, do you see barriers for affordable housing or potential benefits in Mansfield for building?
I do not see particular challenges in the engineering aspect. Part of it is obviously funding is there funding for these things? I think, my understanding is that there's often can be community resistance, so public resistance, and the plan talks about the zoning, but I think engineering aspects are relatively straightforward if you have resources to build these things. Obviously, quality of construction is critical, and to do that in a way that's going to meet the community desires and goals for affordable housing is absolutely critical. So I think those are the main issues, but I think in this field, engineering issues arise, whether it's, water, septic, structural, whatever. And I think as an associate dean, I had to read stuff from all these different fields. So I'm a structural engineer, but I'd be working on proposals on, PFAS contaminants, and have to work with the faculty or experts in that area. So you start reading a lot of stuff and learning, and you do that very quickly so you can respond to deadline. So I think, my technical background, I think my general training as an engineer would be valuable.
It certainly sounds that way. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And I think you may have covered it, but do you have any more questions for us?
I don't think so. No, not at this point. I mean, I went through the plan and it's obviously a lot I have to learn. But I was curious about, how things are, how assuming you're going to implement a larger activity than current, how do you actually afford that? How does the town do this? I was just curious how that was. So.
Yeah. Okay. You're more than welcome to stay on, and we appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like our next applicant that we have on the call is Sheila. Hi, Sheila.
Good evening. Thanks so much. I'm very happy to be with you. Hi, Gina. Nice to see other people, Rebecca, other people on. Do you want me to talk about how long I've been here?
Yeah, I mean, let's do that. Just because I've had everyone.
Let me just say, I'm really very excited by what the town is doing. I just have to say that at the outset. It's probably the most committed and involved and active that I've ever seen it in since I moved here in 1970 in what we're doing in affordable housing. So I moved here in 1970, raised my kids here, and left in 2002, and I went to West Hartford for 10 years, where I chaired the West Hartford Housing Authority, and then moved back to Mansfield because this is home and I wanted to be here. But housing has been, professionally, I was a mental health professional. I worked running mental health centers. I did consulting for many years for organizations, whether it was developing new healthcare programs or working on housing. Housing has been almost a life mission for me. I helped found and headed as the president, 2 nonprofit housing development corporations in Northeastern Connecticut in the 70s and 80s. One of them is still on the books, and it's not totally inactive, Northeastern Connecticut Community Development Corporation. I was on the council for 4 terms, sponsored the original ordinance to set up the housing authority. Then when I ran United Services for 7 years, helped develop a lot of housing for people with serious mental illnesses, housing with supports. Most recently, I've just become a member of the Mansfield Nonprofit Housing Development Corporation, and very extraordinarily devoted group of people have been working very hard to get the South Eagleville project off the ground. But I think that's just, and I helped form and headed an interfaith council here for the last 5 years, just stepped down as their chair, and we've raised a lot of money to support the No Free Shelter in Willimantic, as well as quite a bit of funds we raised for WAME, help WAME raise money during the pandemic to help people who were really on the edge of perhaps becoming homeless. So I see, I've read the plan, and I haven't looked at that charge, Sam, in some time, but I think Mansfield right now it's on the cusp of really being able to get some very exciting things done. The Housing Trust Fund that was formed, just as an aside, if the university is going to build 1,000 units of housing, tear down Mansfield housing, Mansfield apartments and build 1,000 units there, there are 2 issues for me. One is, are they going to pay into the Housing Trust Fund because of what the burdens are going to put on town services? I know the answer to that, but also, are they going to develop housing? Are they going to develop affordable housing there for graduate students? That's a big issue in the town. Even though we have almost 50% of our housing stock is rental housing, the competition, as we know, with students is fierce. And it's why we only have 6% of our housing stock affordable. And affordable just doesn't, we're not talking certainly for the very poor, but we're talking about the workforce, people in the workforce who are lower wage earners and for whom it's very difficult to find housing. It's interesting if you talk to the folks at No Freeze, they have a significant number of people who come into the shelter there from all over who are working. And when it's a little bit warmer, they sleep in their cars and they find a place to shower and they go to work. When it gets really cold, they go to the shelter. And we assume in Mansfield, we don't have that problem, but the reality is we do. And we have folks who are on the edge of homelessness. We have elderly folks who have a difficult time maintaining taxes and maintaining their homes. So there's a whole range here. We have young school teachers. We have people that work in our stores. So I won't keep going on. I just think with the American Rescue Plan that the funds that have come to the town, and I think if we work with, really work in a very close way, as we probably do, but with Joe Courtney and with our two senators, they have more discretionary money that is coming to them that they can apply and make them very much aware that Mansfield can be a leader here in developing affordable housing and that we can do some very creative things, whether it was zoning and there are many different things, clustering housing, et cetera. So I'd be very excited to be a part of this advisory committee and help find ways to implement the plan.
And I appreciate that. Some of the things you mentioned, I was going to ask, do you have any ideas for what priorities you might put if you were on the committee?
I think some of the priorities would be to try to get look at our existing housing stock that is devoted to people with of low and moderate income and see what do we have to do to start bringing that back up to speed. I mean, there's a lot of rehabilitation needed in existing housing stock. Secondly, I think is to get that South Eagleville project built. That's way overdue. And I'd say third is to really look creatively about what else can we start getting off the ground. And the last thing I think is we have to put a lot of pressure on the university that they have to pay attention to graduate students who are coming here who don't have enough money to live. Many of them go to the people that go up to the Storrs Congregational Church to get food when they have a food pantry. They go to WAME. They're in some of our existing subsidized housing, and not that they shouldn't be. I mean, they're people in need, but the university has an obligation, which it has not lived up to. So.
And my final question, and then I'll ask my colleague for any of hers, is, I see your involvement with the Mansfield Housing.
Right.
And so, there could come up a vote or an application that you may have to, recuse or abstain from. And I just was kind of curious how you might handle that.
Well, I think that's a very interesting issue. I have absolutely no financial or personal benefit from being on the Mansfield Nonprofit Housing Development Corporation.
Right.
So if there were other nonprofits that could, mount housing, that would be terrific. I think we need more actors. We need more people doing this. So I don't see a conflict. It would be like saying to someone who was, let's say, a board member of NAACP, that they couldn't be on the Human Rights Commission because Human Rights Commission might take an action that would benefit them. I don't, you guys may see it as a conflict. I don't see it as a conflict. But if you
not in terms of ideology, but in terms of finances, because this committee would be making recommendations as to which projects to fund. And I full support and agree that if we, competition in this, with this would be great. Having more than one nonprofit trying to address and build affordable housing units in Mansfield would be a great thing.
if,
So-
you know, if the council says that if you're a member of the Mansfield Housing Nonprofit Development Corporation and that you have a conflict, if it's related to funding specifically for a project of theirs, and if, you know, if that's your position, then I would obviously recuse myself.
And I just want to be clear, this, I'm not speaking on behalf of the town council. I'm just asking these questions because we have had inquiries into it, you know, from members of the public, and I want to make sure that we're being as transparent in
Sure.
meetings like this. But I don't at all, we haven't talked about it at the town council, so I don't even have a sense of whether anyone else would or would not feel like it would be a conflict.
Yeah, I think I had a discussion with one of the town staff members too, but as I said, well, you'll, I'm sure, talk this through with the town attorney and so on, but
But
I think this is all in the town's interest.
and I'm very happy that you have come in and applied to be on it, because I think you have a wealth of knowledge that the committee would definitely benefit from. So, Councilor Berthelot, do you have any questions?
Just wow. You certainly know your stuff and clearly have a dedication to this really important issue. You've hit just about everything I could think of in terms of importance, particularly focusing on our aging population and our graduate student population.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I do think I agree with you in terms of whether there's an ethics issue here. We probably should go to the ethics committee and just let them make the decision before we do appointments, just so we know so folks know what their limitations might be. Since several folks who would like to be on this very important committee are also members of the Mansfield Housing Nonprofit Development Corporation. So we just need to get that resolved. That's not for you all to resolve. We need to get that resolved. But we're so glad you're here. And we know that you've been the movers and shakers behind these issues for a long time. And it's because of you that we've gotten this far. So thank you.
I'm brand new. The folks that are on the Mansfield Nonprofit Housing Development Corporation have been extraordinarily devoted, you know, to get this done. And it's time it's done. It's time that this is done, that we move on to looking at what should the other priorities in the town do, and do that all together do that as a community, really.
Great. Do you have any questions for us? And I'm sorry, Councilor Berthelot, did you have any more?
No, thank you.
Did you, Sam, did you say you think there'll be a vote for the appointing members to the various advisory committees in January?
Well, what I was saying was, if a vote is made tonight to recommend a candidate, and I know we're not going to vote on the affordable housing one tonight because we don't have all the applicants that came. It seems to be true also for the solid waste committee.
Okay.
But that if you are voted and recommended tonight, that would then more than likely be taken up at the town council's meeting in January. We have one tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. We have one on Monday, but due to the turnaround time and getting the public notice, we wouldn't be able to get anything we do here onto Monday's meeting. Now, what we've told town staff and what we've been trying to communicate with applicants is, you know, currently it looks like we had 7 who are interested for 7 spots. I'd like to see there to be about
Right.
10 applicants total, so that we can have a real, you know, choice. Not to say that, you know, you and the prior applicant aren't qualified, or, you know, the other ones wouldn't be as well. It just, you know, when we're starting off a new committee, I find that tends to work best. And what I've communicated and what this committee has agreed to is, if we need to have a special meeting just to, you know, get that those interviews and that vote done, because the Committee on Committees only meets once a month, we're certainly willing and enthusiastic to be able to do a special meeting just for that purpose. because as you know, this is something that's near and dear to our hearts, and
Right.
we want to strike while the iron's hot, and we have all the interest in the attention that we do.
Well, thanks for all of your leadership on this. Really, it's very exciting.
Well, it's a collaboration of a lot of great minds, and I really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you're more than welcome to stay on, or you can sign off, whatever you prefer to do.
Thank you.
Okay. Sarah Ann, you've been so helpful with the order of interviewees. Who do you mind helping me with the next one?
I, of course, don't mind. Gina would be next, and then followed by Rebecca, followed by Laurel. So there you go. Now you've got them all.
Hey, now it gets easier as we have less people on.
Yeah.
Gina, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good to see you all. Hi, Sheila. I haven't seen you in a long time. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I know you've been in Mansfield for a little while. What brings you to be interested in the Affordable Housing Committee?
Yeah, so I've been in Mansfield I realized when I was filling out the application, about 9 years now. And so affordable housing actually is one of the issues that is near and dear to my heart. If I didn't have the help of family, we wouldn't have been able to secure even our first apartment in Willimantic, let alone be able to move to Mansfield. And so we also live in southern Mansfield, which is the majority of land around our current house on Puddin Lane is developable land, even though it is there is no buildings on it now. Most of it is up for sale. And over the last 2 years, when we had an opportunity, I served on the No Freeze board for many, many years, for about 10 years. And seeing the shifts that happen in people's lives and being able to support them in housing has always been an issue. For me, I think I understand the building blocks that keep people from being able to personally be able to do it. So my husband and I became landlords, and we actually own 3 total properties in Mansfield with the aim of creating affordable housing. And so I have a unique perspective now of understanding kind of the housing market, the landlord issue, and being able to create and sustain properties, and really loving this town and all that it provides for families. And so when I read the charge, and I actually don't know if I saw the charge, but when I read the report, and I don't know if that's also the charge, it's a complex issue that, I realized I know very little about, that I thought I knew more about. And so I just think we're in such a really cool, great position to be able to make changes that can strengthen our community for all of our residents and not just for certain populations, while also ensuring that people have access. So I think that was why when I saw a post, I said, I'm really interested in this. So I've been involved in a lot of community groups and doing service, but none with the town of Mansfield. I know that probably is your next question. Over the last, probably since we moved here, I've focused my energies on supporting activities that my kids are involved with. So gymnastics to basketball, scorekeeping, and PTOs and things like that.
I certainly understand that. And for the, so it sounds like you've read the affordable housing report, but maybe you hadn't seen the charge itself. Is there a priority that you might have for affordable housing in Mansfield that you would be thinking of, as a member before the committee starts meeting?
I think my personal interest has always been for the working families, recognizing that most likely if I didn't have the support, I would need affordable housing for most of my full career that I've had. And so when I was even reading the report, the lens that is put on what a working family looks like, or individuals, I think I think through that lens, but also recognizing that we do have a large student population, and what does that mean for them to have quality housing? So I think probably both of those populations.
Great. Councilor Breslau?
We're running out of questions. I'm lucky it's you, Gina. I guess in terms of using your MSW head, sort of traps we might fall into in terms of sort of creating stigma around affordable housing, how we might avoid that. And also in terms of sort of the importance of families, giving them the support they need also beyond just housing.
Yeah. Well, and you can't select MSW on the drop-down list, just so you know, for degrees. So I had to put that I had an MS because it wasn't one of the options, just
That's
so you
funny.
know. Someone brought up earlier around communication, but I do think there's a lot of misinformation, lack of information around housing, how to access. We don't have enough available slots. So, in my head, but also if you are a family in need, understanding who to go to, when to go to it, and how to access it. I think everyone actually mentioned this about other committees. It's especially true if you're, I think for all of us, but when you're in crisis or even just trying to navigate complex systems, like I'm having trouble even just figuring out the school system. Like so much communication goes out and then you're like, wait, what did I miss? Or, that affects all of us, but especially those that are in that threshold of trying to get the services that they need. And so I didn't actually see that in the report at all. What I did see though is having more training for the staff and having resources available. So I think building that infrastructure in the town would be important. So that, it should be a part of it.
The no wrong door sort of approach that any door, any phone, any town person you reach, that they'll get you to the right place rather than a message that you've gotten the wrong place. And I think we're all overwhelmed with information, and but not necessarily the right information for what we need. So communication, again, it's key. And I think because we don't have our own town paper, that's a real struggle. The Hartford Current only covers us when something goes bad at UConn. So
true. Like even this process, like I was like, how many questions are they going to ask? What does an interview mean? Like, how do I dress? Like, it's when you want to get people involved, or help people. I think people even ask me, and sometimes I'm like, I don't actually even know, and let's look at the website. So I think all of that can play a part in when you're creating and implementing a plan.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
And thanks for having us.
Any questions for us?
I guess since I didn't see the charge, where I found the report. But where would the charge be? Is that in a separate location? Or is it the same thing?
I think you might be able to find it on our website under the Committee on Committees packet for today.
Okay.
I think it's included in that. Oh, no, it's not.
So.
And so how long is the term?
So
if I would be selected?
Oh, it is here. You're right. It is here. I'm sorry. It's October 20th, 2021.
Oh.
My bad.
I'm sorry to interject. I actually don't post the Committee on Committees packet online because of interviewees' personal contact information. It's in the applications. But Gina, I am super happy to forward that along to your email tonight. Okay, so you can have that handy. Yeah, you're welcome.
It looks like-
It's in the minutes for the council. I think October 25th, I believe, was when the council passed the charge. So it's also there as well.
It looks like Sheila would like one too.
You got it.
Um,
I'll just send
and-
it to everybody.
And you know what, one thing we should definitely think about is making sure that the charge for all of these is easily accessible for all of our committees at some point on the website, that it should be super easy to find.
And I know that's something we've talked about in going through each committee and updating the charters, because there's times when it's and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah Ann, but it's not always on one document.
Are you, Sam, just so I'm clear, you're asking, is the charge that sometimes a charge is not always on one document, but is on,
Yeah.
yeah, so a charge would be on one document, but I think what you're referring to is when a charge has had changes over the years. So we've got, previous generations of that charge out there. Although, to your point, sometimes changes are made in part instead of in full.
Right.
There are only a couple that are like that, though. And my office does have comprehensive copies of all of them. So, and that's something that we have been working on, Terry. So, on our new boards and committees portal, all of the boards and committees have their charges right there on their particular committee page. That portal, though, the launch of it has been delayed due to the pandemic and other related things. So, but it is coming.
Thank you.
Good to know, Sarah Ann. Thank you.
And Gina, you're more than welcome to stay on or sign off. Have a good night. And that brings us to Rebecca. How are you?
You muted, Rebecca.
I'm good. How is everybody?
Doing great. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking on with us, through this meeting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been in town, and what? I mean, I think it's kind of obvious to me, but just in case, what brings you to
I
be
have
interested?
a quick review. I actually moved here in '77 to go to UConn, and was here until '96, and then my husband and I left and sort of lived in different areas of the country, and then came back in 2005. And I've been at the Housing Authority since February of 2006 as the executive director. So most of my background is in real estate in some manner, but it was on the private sector side of real estate. I worked for Aetna and Travelers and actually Paradigm Properties in Florida, which is a huge student housing company. Not just student housing, but that's basically in Gainesville, at the University of Florida. But the last 15 years I've been in public housing, which is a sea change from the private sector. And I'm very interested in being on this committee. I am anxious to get this trust off the ground and get it going. I've done a fair bit of research on it. I think one of the most important things is that this is going to be transparent, because I think that's how you get buy-in from everyone in the town. And I won't go through everything. I mean, I think Sheila covered a lot of territory, and I won't repeat all of that. One of the things I know that you brought up there was a concern, and rightly so. I mean, there should be a concern of whether or not there'd be any issues with somebody from the Nonprofit Housing Development Corporation, of which I am also a member, not just the Housing Authority. So, I mean, like, there are different ways to, I think, to handle that could be handled in the writing of the trust. You know, it could be possible that we set up a point system to try to determine which property should get money. You know, there are like a lot of different mechanisms that might be able to be formulated within the trust to alleviate the requirement of somebody having to recuse themselves. But maybe not. I mean, I think that's open for discussion. But I am really interested in getting this trust written the way we want it to read, how it will be most useful for many different housing options. Because I don't think it's just about building new housing. It could be about, you know, helping people to stay in a house they have. It could be, you know, by, I don't know, maybe we lend money to put a new roof on, or, you know, to make something affordable for somebody that they're maybe on the edge, but, you know, need some help to stay in there. I mean, I think there are some different things that the trust could do, still with limitations, but I think I would like to see that all those options sort of thought out, and maybe you don't go with all of it, but I'd like to see everything out on the table to try to get that trust right the first time, and think about all the different ways you can help with affordable housing. And it may not always be building a new development. It might be trying to make, or it might be buying up houses and keeping them affordable that are already here in town. So I'm very interested in being a part of that.
Sounds like you've thought a lot about it for sure. And I appreciate you addressing the, you know, what could be a conflict of interest. I liked what my colleague said in terms of getting a ruling from the Board of Ethics. So then, you know, we know where we stand and we know what members should be aware of when joining type deal. And really appreciate you being here tonight. And I certainly appreciate all the input that you and others, but especially you, gave during the development of the affordable housing initiative that we just are here for tonight to try to staff with volunteers. And Councilor Berthelot, do you have any questions?
I just want to share with Rebecca, I will say that I share your concerns with, you know, things like roofs, septics, wells, boilers. Those are the things that age and often make it such that people who are trying to age in place can't. So addressing those things is an important part of thinking about having affordable housing here in Mansfield. I agree with you entirely. And thinking about rehabilitating homes, maybe also, you know, also with the lens for living with disabilities or aging in place. I would love to see as a big part of this initiative. So appreciate all of your thinking on this. And as I said earlier, you're being a backbone here in the community for getting us moving on affordable housing.
And do you have any questions for us?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you again for sticking on and stepping up to volunteer.
I'm going to say goodbye. It's been a long day.
Have a good night.
Rebecca.
And that leaves us with Laurel. And
Hello.
I see ya.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see and hear
Yeah.
you.
I just, my husband's traveling and my son just was watching something on the iPad and he just came up. He's like, Mommy, it's not working. So I'm here for the Transportation Committee, not Housing, as you may know. But that was interesting to hear some snippets of those conversations because I mean, some of it is directly related. I feel like with any development and or housing rehabilitation and or the aging in place concept, like transportation for college kids and for elderly to get from one place to another is important. So anyway, it all can tie back together. On the planning and zoning meeting the other night, they needed a volunteer for transportation and I emailed Paul and expressed like 5% interest, and then he responded like, "You're in." And and that "you're in" email actually went to my spam, so I didn't really know I was in anyway. But I'm glad I could make this happen tonight. So I'm coming at this as a planning and zoning alternate member. I've lived in Mansfield for 2 years, but I've lived in many other places around the country. And one thing that really is shocking to me as a university town is the lack of accessibility for pedestrians and bicyclists. And the bus system seems to do okay, but I don't really know enough about it to understand its flaws and successes. So the bus system would be something I would learn about. And I know it was the Yukon buses were recently merged with the
WRTD.
Yeah. Is that Wyndham Regional Transit
Yep.
District? Okay, getting my acronyms right. So as a runner and a cyclist myself, and having a young child, and coaching high school cross country, like I have a personal investment in safety of pedestrians around town, and cyclists, and can classify those slightly differently. But I also feel like there's opportunities for the town and the state and the university to work together to create traffic calming and other mechanisms within the roads around the perimeter of campus, as well as neighborhoods like my own, because I live on Hillendale, that would benefit, the residents and the college students alike, for a safer transportation. I mean, my husband and I have been and our neighbors, like Derek probably hates me, but we've been very vocal about complaining about some of the speeding on our roads and trying to encourage installation of different mentality of instead of grind and overlay, you have the opportunity to create better crosswalks or create roundabouts or create other traffic calming devices that would not only be safer, but also you can incorporate drainage systems into them, so you have a sustainable rain garden in your road redesign. But instead they seem to sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but the town and the state, because the state does 275 and 195, really kind of likes the grind and overlay concept, and they end up with wide, freshly paved roads that are perfect for speeding. And that leads to some challenges. Also, this is neither here nor there potentially with transportation, but I do feel in my own personal experience, having UConn be involved from almost like a campus, how is campus defined, and can they work with the town to just simple things like lighting? The path on Separatist is great, but it is dark and dangerous. And same with 275 at night. I mean, there's the pedestrian killed there. So anyway, I digress, but I have some things to learn being a relatively new resident, but also I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that Mansfield could do better as far as pure alternative transportation safety. That's one of my concerns about Four Corners, is that is an opportunity ripe for development, so to speak, but you need to get people safely from there to campus. And how could you even create a better corridor on 195 from there to the Yukon sign, or encourage the use of that path through Discovery Drive? Like, how do you improve that? And then there's the whole, like, there's ADA ramps and all the legal stuff behind that too. But anyway.
It sounds
So-
like you really put a lot of thought into this, and while you may not have like the minutia or the details of this specific area, I have to say I share a lot of the concerns and thoughts that you've had. I grew up in Connecticut, so I'm very used to rural, but at the same time I went to school at University of Colorado in Boulder, and the public transportation was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there is that dichotomy between what's a state road and what's a town road, and how can we better work together to put lighting on roads and maybe flashing crosswalks for pedestrians, and certainly as myself as a runner, I have to be very mindful because there's not sidewalks.
Yeah.
I know that there is I don't know if it's in the infrastructure bill, but I think it made it where there's going to be a sidewalk installation from Four Corners to the Yukon sign on 195.
Okay.
And that was something that our mayor and our town and others had asked for, because we had identified that as an area where we see people walking, and that's not safe. So I can say that, also just try taking a bus, try going from one place to another. And I think then you'll start seeing some of the limitations and some of the benefits of it. But I know that I've tried to take it a few times with my younger children, and read it wrong, or there was an exception to the schedule. We ended up standing outside in the cold for like 45 minutes, and it was, and it does not really have a lot of options on weekends, and it doesn't have a lot of options late at night. Both of which would be great for me, because that's when I'm in the area. But I guess that's what the demand is. Have you had a chance to look at the committee's charge at all?
I have not. I was forwarded the last meeting's minutes, which I honestly skimmed, because this was a very fast, this was like Linda emailed me like this morning, and to join this call tonight. So I haven't reviewed the charge or the minutes in detail, but is the charge on the website?
From what Saren was saying before, it sounds like if you go to, yes, it would be on that committee's website.
Okay.
Councilor Berthelot?
Laura, I love the concept of traffic calming. I'm totally on board with that. I'm often frustrated when we think of transportation as simply how to make the roads faster. And I want them all to be very, very slow. I live on a dirt road, and I get annoyed when they actually fix the potholes. I'm all for potholes, and I drive my colleagues crazy on this front, but anything to slow the traffic down. And I think much of the best part of Mansfield is the beauty of the town and the opportunity to walk around. So having somebody who, or to bike around, having the perspective of seeing the roads is not just for cars, but for community and exercise and good health, that all of those things, also for sustainability, as we talked about earlier, is great. So thank you for volunteering for this. You'll be a great addition.
Thank you.
Any questions for us?
I don't think so. Like I said, this was a last minute, like Linda's like, can you join? I will say, I remember looking when we first moved here at some of the different town things, and I laughed when I saw the committee on committees, but now I have a better understanding on the committee on committees. No, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I'm going to be in touch with long and read those minutes and you know, kind of understand more fully the role of the committee from their standpoint. I guess like how, I mean, from just a pure logistical standpoint, how can the committee work to influence like planning and zoning or like university decisions, or like, you know, is it more of a discussion and then they weigh in when another committee asks them to, or I'm just kind of trying to understand the process a little bit.
Yeah, and I, from my understanding, I don't know how much influence it has, say, over UConn because it is a separate entity.
Right.
But I'm not trying to discourage any kind of influence.
Yeah.
And it may
They
be,
they could reach out. There is a committee that's town gown committee, so they could reach out to the town gown. I mean, there are ways to have conversations, and now more than ever, those conversations should be held. So that's not outside the realm of possibility at all.
great point. And there's also been committees that bring things that they find would warrant the town council's attention. They ask to have something added to an agenda item, or, you know, provide an update, and we certainly love to hear about that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I think my next steps are just kind of to get familiar with, you know, the recent minutes and what's going on, and then you know, they're trying to schedule out a meeting for January, so I guess that will be my first one. So
great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
I know.
Bye.
Okay, so it's 7:24. I think what I'd like to do is vote on the Commission on Aging and the Transportation Advisory Committee, and then table the other ones.
Is Sustainability Committee possible? Because there are 2 vacancies and we had 2 people for that.
Sure.
Am I right about that? Sarah Ann, Joshua, and Elena?
Yes, it should be. There's 2 alternate vacancies.
All righty. I'll go ahead and make the motion to appoint Laura, to recommend to the town council the appointment of Laura Austin to the Commission on Aging for a term ending September 30th, 2024.
Second. Raise your hand if you're in favor. Unanimous.
And I make a motion to recommend to the town council the appointment of Joshua Walters and Elena Hancock to the Sustainability Committee as alternate vacancies, as alternates, I can speak, for a term ending April 27, 2024.
Seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous.
And finally, I make a motion to make a recommendation to the town council for the appointment of Laurel Manville to the Transportation Advisory Committee as a representative from Planning and Zoning.
With a term ending.
Oh, I'm sorry, term ending November 20th, 2023.
Seconded. And all in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Great. And then I see we have reappointments. We have Gail Brune and David Spencer. I'd like to make a motion recommending the 2 of them as reappointed to the Historic District Commission with terms ending January 1st, 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. And Sarah Ann, is there anything else before?
Yes, a couple of things. First, the Eastern Highlands Health District Board of Directors, just putting it on your radar, they're still in need of some Mansfield representation on their board. And so I'm not sure what ideas you all might have for trying to get some folks appointed there, but we did have.
Did we ask Bill Koffel to do that at one point? Did the mayor ask him, or did somebody?
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yes. No, he was appointed, but from what I understand, he has not been to a meeting in about a year. And they have not been hearing back from him.
Okay.
So, so we're really not
We're not represented.
represented. Right, exactly. So I want to put that on your radar. Second thing on your radar is the Human Services Advisory Committee. They did just meet yesterday and wrap up their discussion and commentary on the new, on the revised charge. They have requested to meet with you all at your next meeting to discuss it. They do have some feedback and concerns. So I will plan to put that on your agenda for January. And then finally, actually Laurel's interview is quite timely. The Transportation Advisory Committee charge, I was looking at it in comparison to some comments I've heard at council meetings about what you'd like the committee to focus on. And there are some areas of that charge that could use some updating, clarification, perhaps some additions, especially what I'm hearing about pedestrian concerns. John, I did send that charge along to John Carrington. He's going to take a look at it and see about some thoughts and suggestions. And then I'm also, of course, going to bring it to you all for you to look at as probably, if it makes sense to you after the Human Services Advisory Committee, you all can take a look at that charge as your next one to update.
Great.
Sounds great. Sarah Ann, can
that's
I
all.
ask a question about the Eastern Highland position?
Sure.
Historically, is that a medical person?
I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I want to say no. Betsy Patterson, for example, she's served on it when she was the mayor, but also after being mayor, she has been serving on it. She is stepping or has already recently stepped down from that position as well. So I don't believe that it's a requirement. Well, I know it's not a requirement.
All righty. Brian's got his hand up.
Eastern Highland, are you looking for a council member to sit on the board?
Do one of you want to answer that? I mean, it can be. It certainly can. It certainly could be a council member. I'm sorry, Brian?
I may be interested in that. Could you send me some email information on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what I'll do is I'll get in touch with Rob Miller, the director, and I'm certain he has materials that he could send to you to review
Sure, I'll
and
review 'em.
think it over. Okay, great.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for sticking it out. I have to say, we don't normally go to 7:30. All right, anything else? Okay, if not, then a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and unanimous.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Thank you.